What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. I'm your host, Greg. You're listening to episode 261. I am here tonight with Ryan and Tyler, and I guess I'll clean up this beer explosion after we record. That was absolutely I'm like, we need to start recording. Hit record, open my beer, and it just explodes all over the place. It's absolutely
at least you did yours before you hit record, whereas I like to time it up right after you hit record and make my beer go all over the place.
Yeah, Ryan likes to open beers as I hit record, and you can hear it on the recording.
You're welcome.
It makes for a nice intro. How you guys doing tonight? We're going to do some fun stuff. We got a fun episode tonight.
Oh, hey, all right. I'm doing pretty good. The Wings, they're doing pretty good. I mean, really, really good, especially since the turn of the new year. It's like they needed some time off and needed some practice and some togetherness, if you will. But other than that, your Detroit football Lions NFC football championship game bound. I know I said football so many times there, but I don't care. And it's surreal. Like, Tyler, you've been a Patriots fan all your life. I know you cheer for the Lions, but this is the weirdest feeling. I have not known how to react to these
Ryan
wins.
Doesn't know what to do with his hands.
I haven't. Every game so far in these two wins in the playoffs, I've looked at the people I'm hanging out with and I'm just like, they didn't lose.
What do we do now?
Yeah. That's how accustomed we've become and how numb we are to the such a great ecstasy feeling of winning a playoff game. But no, Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing good. The Wings obviously are playing really well. Good win against Tampa Bay, and that was the common theme of the day yesterday. Detroit teams kicking Tampa Bay's teams' asses. So 2-0 against Tampa Bay. And just to your point about being a Patriots fan, yeah, I'm a Patriots fan. I think that now that I'm a little bit older, I think a lot of the fandom as a Patriots fan was a Tom Brady thing, which, I mean, I hate to admit that.
Imagine that.
As I've talked about on the podcast, I'm much more of a college football fan than an NFL fan. I do see myself rooting for the Lions a lot right now. I mean, obviously with Aiden Hutchinson, and you guys all know how big of a Michigan fan I am. So, but with that, Michigan national champions, the Wings are playing really good, and the Lions are going to the NFC Championship game. Michigan winning a national title is something I never thought I would see in my life. I know it sounds...
You know how overdue it's been for you guys to finally get on top?
I agree with you, Ryan, but again, I've never seen it in my life, so how could I think that it was possible? So,
what year were you born?
95.
Okay,
I think I remember the 97 national championship team at 2 years old.
I think Greg and I just had the same math problem going off in our head. Like, wait, how old are you?
I don't like it. We're going to stop talking about that right now.
Honestly, being a Michigan fan, the one time I saw them beat Ohio State was in 2011 or whatever with Denard Robinson.
It was 2011 because I was out at freaking Southern California for pre-deployment training.
Yeah, and not to make this a whole Michigan Ohio State thing, but that barely even counted. You know, Luke Fickell was an interim head coach at that point. So.
Yeah, he was.
Anyways, go on.
Exactly. Anyways, and you're right. The Red Wings, I think we'll just hit on that really quick before we start this. Today we're doing midseason grades. I've got a fun little graphic with a bunch of people on it, and we're going to slide them up and down the chart.
You upped your game this year with this thing.
Yeah, I just to try hard, I guess that's what's happening now.
Long day, huh?
No, I just did this literally in the half an hour between putting my daughter to bed and when you guys hopped on. That's when I did all of this.
Well played.
But the Red Wings, yes, they are hot. What was important, I think, about what just happened was we lost that game in Carolina. And I think 9 times out of 10, our current setup of a team is going to get out defensed by the Carolina Hurricanes. It's just going to happen. They've got probably the best defense in the entire league.
And
you're not going to score, especially with Ranta back. You have a chance to maybe score a few more goals, but you're not going to score a ton against them if their defense is on at the top of their game. And it was. The important thing was to come back and beat Tampa, which they did. And they put in just a fantastic effort against the Tampa Bay Lightning and ended up winning that game. It ended up being 2-1. Yeah, so we end up winning that game 2-1. And it's just, I mean, really good because it knocks
regulation.
Tampa.
That's the best feeling about it right there. Regulation 2-1 win.
Well, it knocks Tampa back down below us because we have a game in hand on Tampa.
Yep.
And we've now eclipsed them in the standings, and we're right
Over the
neck and
Leafs
neck
won,
with
so
Toronto.
they jumped us again.
Well, yeah, but we're neck and neck with Toronto. That's the thing. So we're all battling for basically the third spot in the division, which is just fantastic. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do some midseason grades. I have a tiers list, as you can see on the screen, of basically our gold star players, our above average players, average, below average, and Elmo on fire. Those are my tiers right now. That is how, and this is not just recency bias. You can say, oh, well, they're doing better recently, or they've picked up their game since then. It's their performance from the beginning of the season until now. That is what we are doing as a whole. Now, players have a chance to improve. That's why you do end of season grading. But this is just where we're at this point, how they have performed from the beginning of the season until now. So, do we want to start with garbage or do we want to start with the overachievers?
Let's go bottom up.
Okay, bottom up. That's going to be really hard to do because my Elmo on fire tier is blank. I have no one that has performed so horribly the entire season that they belong in the Elmo on fire tier. Now, I know someone you guys will argue, and you'll say that Jeff Petry is an Elmo on fire.
No, I won't. I won't say that.
So I have no one.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
Who's your Elmo on fire, Tyler?
Ville Husso. He's been hurt, and when he played, he was horrible. So
I get okay.
the defense was horrible too. So I guess not all the blame could be put on him. But
now, is it because of the expectation
perhaps
that you've got him down there?
You can do expectation versus reality. I think I can be talked into putting Ville Husso in the Elmo on fire category, but give me your pitch, Tyler.
I just think that he's been beyond horrific when he's in there, and when he's obviously he's been hurt, so obviously that's not fully his fault or anything like that. But the expectation was he was going to be the number one guy, and he has not been the number one guy. It's been Alex Lyon. So,
I mean, you go back to this point last season, and we were arguing. I shouldn't say argument. Having the conversation with Daniela that he was arguably your all-star, your mid-season MVP. And really, since that point last season is where the wheels seemed to fall off, and it was just kind of downhill from there. And it was already starting to kind of get that way up until the midway point. So, I mean, to your point, I don't necessarily want to go that far with it, but he was brought in and paid, and you're under contract to technically be that go-to guy. He was the hot hand. Detroit rode him hard last year. Maybe that's why he got hurt, but also he was a bit unproven coming over. And that's why I think some people did remain skeptical. It was damned if you do, damned if you don't, but you've got him signed for almost $5 million for one more season after this. That's starter money for you look at most teams. So yeah, I can see where you're kind of going with that.
So in 18 games played, Ville Husso has won 9, lost 5, with a save percentage of an 8.93 and a goals against of a 3.53. If you compare that to last season, he played 56 games with 26 wins, 22 losses. He finished the season with an 8.96 and a 3.11. So his save percentage has gone down. His goals against have gone up. Our defense as a whole has gotten better. So the problem to me, therein lies the problem being Ville Husso. Now, I had put him in the below average category because he started the season out okay and then slipped a little bit. And now, I mean, like you said, he's been injured. He should be back next week or so. I also think that coaching waited too long to put in an Alex Lyon or to make that kind of change, to where you have a Ville Husso who might be down in confidence a little bit and they just kept throwing him out there to play instead of maybe giving him a little bit of a bounce back. But I think I can be talked into making Ville Husso the only player in our Elmo on fire category. So let's see if I do one of these. There we go. Look at that. Put Ville Husso in the Elmo on fire. And I'll even make Ville Husso a little bit bigger in the Elmo on Fire since he's going to be the only person inside the Elmo on Fire category. It's not good. And I think what we really need to see coming back is a couple things when he's back on the roster is please don't just throw him back in the starter net and say, you're the starter again. Don't do that. Alex Lyon has earned this net. Alex Lyon has overperformed expectation at every turn. And if you're going to try and rotate, and at this point, I wouldn't even try and rotate. Alex Lyon's your starter until he proves otherwise. I'm not making Husso a 1B. Lyon's going to be the starter, and Husso will maybe play every, 5 games or 4 games, however you want to do it. But I'm not rotating game to game with Husso and Lyon.
He's done it several times over, him being alone. Is going to ride the hot hand. Lyon's your guy. And while it does terrify me to no end that he is going to get burned out, they're winning and they're doing it well. And he's also the way that they've just kind of changed the defensive schemes up and as a whole have looked better since the turn of the new year. And they've even said it. We talked about this a while ago that they were struggling. They didn't have a lot of time off. They weren't getting true practices in. They just were tired, run down since Sweden. Turn of the new year, they've made the point that they're out there practicing. They're getting time to work on things and adjust. And you've seen that in the play. And we've seen that with the goaltending. Lions gotten stronger and stronger over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And it's been paramount to where this team's going right now.
He just matched the performance of Andrei Vasilevsky. And I think that's really all you need to say about Alex Lyon is when you go up against Vasi. And granted, Vasilevsky, I think, had to make some harder saves than Lyon did. But the Wings also hit a few posts that if they didn't hit the post, it would have been clearly in.
Oh, yeah.
Lyon matched what Vasilevsky put out there.
I agree. I thought Lyon was awesome yesterday and has been overall, really. And deserves to continue to be the starting goalie until somebody supplants him. And I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. So I think Lyon's your number one guy, and then you go from there.
So I pulled up Hockey Reference, and of all the goalies that have made an appearance this year, the average save percentage right now is a 903. And what'd you say Husso was at currently for his save percentage?
Ville Husso's at an 893.
If he can bump that up a percentage point, get himself to around a 900, get yourself literally to the NHL average, and that goals against absolutely has to come down, because if you look at goals allowed, average is a 903. Get yourself to 900. That means you're winning more games. Bring it up, get it to average. Then now we're starting to really look at the situation we've been hoping for the last couple of years of a true 1A, 1B type scenario. And now you've got 2 solid goaltenders, hopefully both healthy, and riding you into a potential playoff berth.
Seems like this could be potentially the year of firsts. Lions' first playoff victory, the Wings' first time in the Stanley Cup playoffs since 2014, 2015, whatever it was.
Way too long.
I think it's been 7 years now, about to be 8. So the way that they're playing right now and winning close games is the way that you're going to win playoff games. That's the way that you're going to win playoff games, or at least, those important games down the stretch. You beat Tampa 2-1, you lose to Carolina 4-2, but then you beat Florida 3-2, you beat Toronto 4-2. Like there's been some pretty good sample size of games that have been close games, and they're actually winning those games, and they're actually defending pretty well recently. So
we're going to go through the below average people, and I'm going to throw my guys up on here. So I made a little face on Ville Husso. We're going to put my players here in the below average tier. I have, let's see, Justin Holl. You're going in my below average tier. Jeff Petry, there you go. You are in my below average. You're so below average, you don't even deserve a picture. And my below average tier is Andrew Copp. So those are my guys in below average. If we look at Jeff Petry right now on the season, Jeff Petry has 37 games played with 2 goals and 11 assists for 13 points, averaging 18 minutes and 32 seconds of ice time a night. I think that is the number that hurts me the most, is that Jeff Petry is getting a lot of time, and it's just keep trotting him out there to do the same thing over and over again. And I mean, I almost pulled my hair out when he took that penalty with like 11 seconds left in the game against Tampa last night. And I'm like, you're going to screw us right now with 11 seconds left. And luckily he didn't. They were able to finish the game out. Justin Holl started off the season, I think, as what we wanted him to do. And as the season has gone on, the play has gotten progressively worse to the point of like, now sometimes he's a defensive liability, not to the point where he's like giving up a ton of goals and it's like, oh, it's Justin Holl's fault, but it's a lot of turnovers. It's a lot of missteps in the neutral zone. And he doesn't provide anything offensively like at all. Like even assists, he's got 5 assists in 31 games. And then Andrew Copp, for what you're paying him to do, he's doing it for the most part. He has been heating up recently, but again, from the start of the season up until like 6 games ago, he was either losing faceoffs, he was turning the puck over, he was controller disconnected in the offensive zone. I think I've said his name more in a negative fashion than any other player on the entire team besides Jeff Petry has been like, Andrew Copp, what are you doing? Have been kind of like the words out of my mouth.
I'll give you Petry and Holl, and I really don't need to go much deeper on those two. Holl has just kind of, I think a big part of that is his lack of consistent ice time, because like we saw early on, he was playing well, and it seemed like he was a real good two-way, but mostly shutdown guy. And it seemed like him with Ghost, it clicked early, and then just things kind of not really sure what happened. And then with Jeff Petry, well, kind of like what I said last week, there's either he's on melatonin during a game or he's on cocaine. There is no in between. And more often than not, it seems like he's on the melatonin because, like, as of late, it's obvious that the team is really trying to work on board breakouts, but he is the only one for whatever reason that it just has not worked well for. It's either turned into consecutive turnovers like we saw a couple games ago. He just gets flustered. Like it's like he's thinking too much, which is absolutely incredible because their breakouts seems to be pretty straightforward for what they're trying to accomplish at this point and what they've tried to instill. But the only one I'd argue on being below average is Andrew Copp, because if you look at his points right now, he's averaging 0.48. Where'd my calculator go? 0.49 points a game. His average for his career is right there.
This is a lot of recency bias, though, too.
Sure, but you look at the totality of his season. He's got his highest face-off percentage right now since before he left Winnipeg. Defensively, he's been one of Detroit's best players all season, especially when it comes to the PK. He absolutely, and I have bitched and moaned plenty of times about what he has done or not done for that matter when it comes to doing things offensively. He's had a streak. He's finally on a line that he's got some chemistry with. I get it, the recency bias, but he's still doing what he was doing before he got here. And I think to me, that makes you average. You're not doing below that. You're not really doing above that. But the biggest thing I take from that is his faceoffs. Like I said, he is picked it up there big time, especially with the turn of the year. And to me, that's huge because you're a role player. You're not JT Compher's taking over that 2C role. We get that. Now he's out there. He's got what, 22 points Copp does in 45 games as a third line center. And you're killing penalties. You're being relied upon to be out there defensively. I'm good with him being average.
Tyler, are you moving anyone? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Copp, I would agree if this was something we were doing at the beginning, he would, not the beginning, but like at the end of November, say, I would say
quarterly, if you will.
Yeah, I would say he would be below average. Right now, I would say he's probably average. I mean, he's playing, like Ryan said, about where his career has been. What is he? He's got 22 points. And again, like I said, if you look at October and November, he had 10 points combined, and he had 7 in December, and then he's got 5 in January already so far. And we're only at the 22nd of the month. So he's definitely picked it up. I would say he's probably average at this point, but that's where I would put him, honestly.
Fine, it's a 2-1 vote. I'm going to move Andrew Copp into the average category.
Yeah, democracy.
Andrew Copp is going to be joined by a litany of players. Andrew Copp is going to be joined by Ben Sherratt, Oli Mata, James Reimer. Who else did I have in my added average category? Michael Rasmussen.
There's a lot of people off of that one.
It is. It's a lot of people. Joe Veleno, where are you? You go into average. Joe Veleno.
There's the eyebrows.
You're going to have Christian Fischer, Robbie Fabry, David Perron.
This is a shit show.
I know. This is where they all start getting thrown in. Klim Kostin. So I think that was everyone inside my average category. I don't think I'm missing anyone there. I think I have one that I started on average, but because of his early play, I'm going to leave him in the above average category and see if he turns it around. But those are my average guys. So Andrew Copp joins Ben Sherratt, Oli Mata, James Reimer, Michael Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, Christian Fischer, Robbie Fabry, David Perron, Klim Kostin, all in the average category. And I think what you will notice about this year as opposed to last year is that there's a lot less people below the middle line. The middle line is where we had a tough time, I believe, last year being like, are these guys average or are they like secret? If it was any other year, would they be below average or would they be bad?
Yeah.
And like Ben Sherratt, we had issues with him at the beginning of the season, but when November rolled around, he started to turn his game around. And Ben Sherratt has been one of the better defensive defensemen lately and through November. He's hitting people. He's using his body. He's being aggressive, which is what Ben Sherratt is supposed to do. Oli Mata, I could be convinced to move Oli Mata to the above average. Oli Mata has been, which I don't know why coaching had healthy scratched him earlier on in the season, because he's very consistent. That's the thing about Oli Mata is he will provide you consistent defense. James Reimer, for as many bad games as he's had, he's also had some really good games. I had to leave him in the average section. Michael Rasmussen, picking it up again lately. I really wish he would use his body more. I wish he would hit more. Remember that he's a big guy and can take control. Like, he could make people fall over by looking at them, like literally. And he's got a little bit more snarl lately. He's hitting back. I think recently in the past few games, I think it was Florida and it was Tampa and maybe a little bit in Carolina, is the second someone like looked wrong at Michael Rasmussen, he's like cross-checking at him. So he's getting a little bit more aggression, but he just needs to, when he's doing board battle, going to the boards to battle, he needs to start hitting. He needs to finish his checks and he needs to get in there because he's big enough to be able to outmuscle people. Veleno, I think one of the words to describe Joe Veleno is inconsistent. He's very streaky with offense, but overall he's not a detriment really in any way. So he goes in the average category.
The thing against him the last really 2+ seasons.
Yeah. I think if I took teamwork, like rah cheerleading teamwork into effect, Christian Fischer would go into above average. But Christian Fischer does that job he is here to do, which is be an average player. Like, go in, muck stuff up, kill penalties, but then just be this dude in the locker room that's like super duper important. Like, just keeps the team. He's like the glue of the team. He's like class clown, dude that's there, that's going to pep you up. He's going to give you that energy to go in there and just do what you need to do. Perron does David Perron things, which it's what you expect of him right now. And Klim Kostin, I still think you brought him in to be an aggressor. And as we've seen in the past few games, especially, I think there's a lot of offense in Klim Kostin if he just gets more consistency. But those are my average players. I know it's a lot. It's a bunch of dudes that fit right in the middle. What do you guys think?
I got one that I would move right away, and that's Robbie Fabry. And the reason that is because I think that first of all, he stayed on the ice for the most part. He's one of those guys
that take health into account, Tyler.
Okay, but that is part of it.
This one you can.
That is part of it because, again, before this season, I would have said, okay, Robbie Fabry has a lot of injury issues. And if he can't stay on the ice, sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes it's not your fault. But in his case, it's like, dude, you're hurt every time. Like, you got to do things to prevent injuries and stuff like that. But regardless of the situation, I would say he's above average, especially considering what we've expected from him at the start of the season. We expected maybe fourth line grinder. He's putting up some points. He's got 13 goals and 7 assists, 20 points. not the greatest and probably not what we expected when we traded for Robbie Fabry. However, I mean, considering his injury history and considering his inconsistencies, I think he's been quite good.
Now you might be able to move me because I did not notice that Robbie Fabry, with his 20 points in 34 games, was doing it with 13 minutes and 26 seconds of ice time on average.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the months specifically, they've pretty much been similar in terms of 13 minutes. He had a little bit more time in November. He had 14 minutes, but that was only in one game against New Jersey. So, considering he's played all of December, all of January, or sorry, all of November, all of December, and then the latter part of January so far, I think he's got to be above average.
I could agree with that one, mainly because he's at a 30% clip right now shooting. That maintainable? No, but it's helping him out tremendously. He's averaging, I think I just saw it, 0.68 points a game. His career average is at 0.5, so he's already trending in a fantastic direction in terms of career year. And because he's got 20 through 34. Last year he only had 16 and 28. Year before that he had 20. Year before that 18. His career high is 37 from his rookie season. If he would have been healthy, I think he absolutely hits that. But right now, you can't be really upset with what Robbie Fabry's done. He's been kind of over the last 5 games, only 2 points over his last 5, but both goals, both huge goals, one against the Kings and one against the Panthers, and both wins. So that's one I would argue. Another one I would absolutely argue being above average. And you might have some pushback would be Ben Sherratt. I think that the way things have gone to this point for this season in particular, he's putting his body out there. He's top 20 in hits per 60 right now in the NHL. Let me find the defensive stats again here. He's also in the top 30. He's 26th overall in the league, and he's missed one game. He's got 93 block shots. You've got Seider up there with 106 at 14, and Jake Wallman still sitting at 9th with 113 block shots. So, Moritz had 106, Wallman 113. The way that Sherratt's been out there eating minutes, putting body on, like he is doing things that we were hoping for. So, yeah.
My counter to that would be that there's been a lot of good there's been good Ben Sherratt games. There's been horrid Ben Sherratt games. And then there's been a lot of Ben Sherratt games that he's doing what you expect him to do. Like what you're paying him to do, he's actually now going out and doing, which he wasn't doing last season.
Yeah.
He's actually doing it now. So what I'm saying is like, I think that his really good games are there to offset his really bad games. And what remains are the games that you say, yes, Ben Sherratt, you're getting paid this amount of money to go out and hit people and block shots. That's what you're being paid to do. So that's why I'm saying like average, because he's performing as an average defenseman playing in a middle pair. And there are some games where he's really bad, and him and Jeff Petry are like the world's worst hockey players. And there's some.
And I put more blame on his partner than I do him, because he's, for much of what we bitched about with Sherratt last year, is guys were having to make up for what he was doing. And that was overcommitting, putting himself out of position, drawing the other guy out of position. Now,
Ryan, will this make you happy right here?
Yeah, put him on the line. There we go.
There you go.
That.
We have in between average and above. We're gonna put Ben Sherratt like right here. His face will be peeking out above, slightly above average. Tyler, can you agree with slightly above average?
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I'll tell you why. It's a lot of what we saw last year was a lot of turnovers, a lot of liability in his own end, a lot of shit like that, where this year he's been meaner, hasn't taken as many stupid penalties, in my opinion. He's just been more of a factor. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that he's out there putting up a lot of points or anything like that, but 12 points in 45 games as a quote unquote defensive defenseman, or maybe a tweener between a defensive defenseman and a shutdown guy. I mean, he's been good. There's no doubt about that. He's been good.
Wait, you say a tweener between a defensive defenseman and a shutdown guy? What's the difference between those two?
A shutdown guy,
I think it means like aggressive.
trying to think of a specific, I don't know, like a Radko Gudas,
Like a Drew Doughty?
a guy like that. Yeah, no, Drew Doughty's more of like a freak of nature kind of guy, like a Charlie McAvoy, one of those guys. Like those are the high class. I'm talking like just a meat and potatoes, shut down defensive defenseman, doesn't give you much offensively. He's a little bit better.
I mean,
than
that's
that.
Drew Doughty.
Yeah, but Drew Doughty's a superstar. I don't.
Yeah,
Drew
but
Doughty can do. I'll disagree with you there. Drew Doughty is not a superstar, but Drew
Was a
Doughty can
superstar.
do.
Can we
He
be
can
fair
do
with
both
that?
things really well. He
You're right.
can excel at both ends of the spectrum, as to where someone like Ben can produce offensively and can be a really good shutdown defenseman. But he doesn't take each of those things, elevate them to the height that Drew Doughty historically has elevated them to.
Right. I mean, and again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's got the skill set of Drew Doughty or anything like that, but he does have the ability to be mean. He does have the ability to clear out the front of the net. And again, they've gotten better of that as of late, and a lot has had to do with Seider and Sherratt and Walman and those guys clearing out the front of the net. And again, that's why I would say he's a little bit above average.
So we agree. We're going to have him just peeking out over the edge right there. We'll agree with that. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do really quick before we move on to our top performers, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Word from our sponsors. We'll be right back with the above average and the gold star players on the team. And this is where I'm excited because there's a hell of a lot more than there were last season. So we'll be back in 1 second after a word from DraftKings.
We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. And with guys like DeBrincat and Kane and Dylan Larkin piling up points, you always have good choices for bets on DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved.
And we're back, and we're going to do above average, and we're going to do gold star. And my above average, now that, like I said before the break, this is awesome because there were not many people you could throw in the above average category last season. But this season, so we've already moved Robbie Fabry. Look how happy he is to be an above average. We are going to put in our above average category Moritz Seider. We're going to put Lucas Raymond. We are going to put Daniel Sprong. We are going to put Jake Wallman. We are going to put JT Compher. We are going to put Alex DeBrincat. We are going to put Shayne Gostisbehere. We are going to put Patrick Kane. And that is going to round out our above average category. And look at this. There are almost as many above average guys as we have that are average, which I think is what makes you a better team. This is what moves you forward. You've got some guys on the average, above average side right now that are bordering the superstar or gold star level. I mean, Robbie Fabry, so you convinced us to move him. Jake Wallman, who would have thought that Jake Wallman would repeat or even exceed what he had done last season after being given away by the St. Louis Blues, and then just being so appreciative that another team wanted him, that he comes here and just blows the door down and shows that he can be a top pairing defenseman. Mo Seider, people can disagree, and I don't care. Mo Seider is playing at a extremely high level. Top competition every single night. He's become one of our best, if not on every night, our best defensive defenseman. I know the offense is still there. We can see more of that from him. But Mo has really picked it up, shutting down guys like Connor McDavid and just going out there and putting everything on the line. I mean, he went head to head with Victor Hedman last night. And it was fantastic to watch him just go in, and he even like Hedman's got the puck and Mo just goes in and runs him, which is phenomenal to watch. Lucas Raymond exploding the way we thought Lucas Raymond was going to explode, I guess. I think we said 70 points. He's still on pace for around that on the season. Alex DeBrincat slowed down recently. Like 10 games with nothing really to show for it. But we know the offense is still there. Patrick Kane came in and did Patrick Kane things. Shayne Gostisbehere has been above average most of the first half of the season. JT Compher is excelling at the 2C role. Daniel Sprong is a guy that I might put borderline based on what you brought him in to do and what he's doing between the above average and the gold star level, because Daniel Sprong, with the ice time that he's getting, is putting up like 30 points so far and just has an amazing shot. And it's criminal that we have him for the money we have him and where we're playing him. And let's see, what do you guys think?
Hard to disagree, really. I mean, the argument with Seider and Wallman, and they had a rough stretch. There is definitely no doubt about it. And then we started looking at, I appreciate the people that really did the true digging and identifying the matchups that these guys are having. And also, again, we talked about it. The team as a whole struggled through December just because the schedule was a brute. But now I'm starting to realize that if you're an offensive player, fancy stats are your thing all day, every day. If you're a defensive player, I now struggle to believe what they're starting to show us. And last night, I think, was a prime example of that. And even going back to Edmonton, because if you looked at the hockey stat cards, for instance, for Jake Wallman and Moritz Seider, if you didn't look at anything but those cards, you would have thought they had a shit game. Right?
Yeah, and I think we went back and forth on Discord about this. Like, what are they even using? We ruled out plus minus.
Well, he's got the breakout of it of the players, so it's got to be a combination. But I don't know how they're weighted, how it's calculated behind the scenes. That's kind of the issue, and it's several of it are like expected goals, and there's a few like created stat lines that are going into the calculation. Because even the guys at Evolving Hockey, they're not favorable to Seider and Wallman defensively. I already laid out what they've done in terms of putting body on. Seider's up there with Sherratt in terms of hits per 60. You've got Seider and Wallman are both in the top 15 for block shots in the NHL. Like we've seen the charts already over the last couple of weeks that they are out there, 55-60% of the time against the other team's top lines. Like, they are going against the best of the best. And if you're not watching hockey or watching their games in the game tape for them, you see these charts out there and you're like, these guys suck. Wallman, their Seider's a bust. Wow, what a trade for Wallman. That's what you have with some of these friggin' airheads out there that don't actually say, like, oh, look at the way that Seider just cleared the net on a loose puck that was bouncing around after Wallman cleared it behind the net. They managed to get it behind Lyon. And then Seider clears it out, which then leads to another block shot. And then they clear it out of the zone. Or how about the other day when Seider cleared it out of the crease on an open net? Or Wallman falling down and taking multiple shots off the legs, having a freaking softball-sized bruise on his thigh because they're out there putting their body on the line and they're doing it against top competition in hockey. And guess what? It's translating into wins. Call me crazy, but I think what they're doing is pretty good. And to just try to write some of these guys off because you want to just believe what you see, ironically, on the internet, is just kind of lazy. So to have the guys on here that you do, it's hard to argue because they are performing the way that we would have hoped.
I mean, looking at Seider again in year 3, 46 games played with 5 goals and 18 assists for 23 points. He's a +1 right now, averaging 22 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time a night. And if you were to say, and I mean, this even started last season, but most Seider in year 3, you're kind of doing a trial by fire because you're giving him 0 easy assignments. He's getting 0 easy assignments. He's going out there on the PK. He's going out there on the power play. And you're just telling him, no, your guy's McDavid and you're not going to let him do anything. And for the most part, he doesn't let him do anything. And like every player in the entire league, will Mo Seider have missteps? Yes. Does Cale Makar have missteps? Yes. Does Quinn Hughes have missteps? Yes. Everyone has missteps. But Seider is able to go out and like you said with the hockey stat cards, if you look at him and they'll say, oh, well, Seider was one of the worst players. He wasn't. He went out there and exceeded in the job that you asked him to do. And it's the guys where you say a defenseman, we say a defenseman is a good defenseman generally when you don't talk about him during the game. You don't say his name, you don't mention him. That means he's out there, he's doing his job. And when you do mention him, it's because they make an amazing play. That is when you know a defenseman's doing their job. And that is Seider on literally every night at how old Seider? He's 22. So it's like, what more are you going to ask of a 22-year-old to play against the league's best players on a nightly basis?
Yeah, my opinion on that is Seider has been fantastic. It started out a little slow, but he's gotten better as the years gone on. So anyone trying to sit here and tell me that Seider is a bust or Seider is not playing well or blah blah blah, it's just clearly either not watching the game or very biased in one way or another. So I don't really put any stock into that. The hockey cards are great for forwards. I think, Ryan, you're right. For defensemen, it's a little broken, and I'm not sure how they measure things. I think as a defenseman, you just have to watch the games. I mean, there's really no other way. I mean, blocked shots and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, but like at the end of the day, it's like you need to actually watch what that defenseman is doing. Is he staying with his guy? Is he losing D zone coverage? Is he getting the puck out when they're killing penalties? Is he blocking shots at times? Is he getting his stick in a lane? Is his gap control good? When McDavid's coming down the wing or a fast winger's coming down the wing or coming up the middle of the ice, is he getting beat with speed? Like, there's a lot of different factors, and I'm not sure how you put that into stats. Going to the above average category, the only thing I would do, this might be controversial, but you might be able to get behind it. I would move Raymond up one category to the you get a gold star, and I'll tell you why. I think Raymond's expectations last year were that he was going to have a good second season, and he had a pretty good season, but he had a down season compared to the rookie year, right? This year, he's at 35 points already, and at this point, I'm not sure where he was at this point last year, but he finished off with 45 points. I mean, he's 10 points away, and they played what have they played? 46 games? So, I mean, if he stays healthy, there's no reason why he can't eclipse the 45 and probably even more than his rookie year when he had 57. So I would move him up.
So the thing about Raymond too is that last season he averaged 17 minutes and 23 seconds and got those 45 points. This season he's only averaging 17 minutes and 37 seconds. So not much of a time difference. It's like a 13-second time difference, 14-second time difference in ATOI. And like you said, he's 10 points behind now. He did that 45 points in 74 games last season. But I don't see why. And we expected him to bring it up. We said, that's not Lucas Raymond. It's a sophomore slump. It's guys figured out what he can do. And now he has to figure out a way to counter that. And he's figured out a way to counter that. And could he still hit 30 goals, 40 assists? I think it's possible. I mean, he's at 13 and 22 right now. But I think he's going to be close. He's going to be in that 65 to 70 point range, or should be in that 65 to 70 point range. So I think you could do with Lucas Raymond maybe what we did with Ben Sherratt and put him slightly above average, but not quite to that, what I would consider almost elite level.
Yeah, for reference, through 46 games played last year, he had 15 goals and 17 assists for 32 points. So he's not far off where he was at this point last year, but the way he ended the season last year, I think that's where over his final 28 games played last year, he only had 13 points. So as long as he doesn't repeat that, he's going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we can take him and do the bench shot with him. It just like he'll peek over the little box right there, because he has he's become a top line player. I think that's what it is you're like, was Lucas Raymond going to be a top 6 guy? No, he's a top line player. And him and Dylan Larkin have really, really good chemistry. I think that's the thing is you're like, well, we're going to put Larks out there and we know Larks your top line player, but who are going to be his wingers? We thought it was going to be for the whole season. We thought it was going to be Raymond and DeBrincat. The DeBrincat gets shuffled down. They bring in Patrick Kane, but Lucas Raymond sticks at the top, and he's shown why. Like he said, he's put on muscle. He's gone in there and he does board battles. He retrieves pucks. He hits guys. He's not taking shit from people, and he's been going in and scoring goals and setting up plays. So I could be convinced to put Lucas Raymond there in the little peek above the box section. Is there anyone else you guys want to focus on? Anyone that you think you could make a case for to move up or down, or that you want to gush over?
The only other person I'd probably argue out of this group, I mean, Sprong, I think, is possibly where we have Raymond and like an in-betweener because of the year that he's having. Like he's got, what's his average time on ice right now? 12 minutes and 50 seconds a night. He's just put up 30 points. He's hit his 30-point mark at 46 games. So he right there, I think, and he's got a sense of humor to roll with it, saying how Twitter's telling him to shoot more.
He called us out, man. I felt seen whenever he said that.
I'm pretty sure I had one from the last couple of games of Sprong shoot the puck. And
I did too. Absolutely. From the podcast account, it was what is happening. No, my last one was, did Daniel Sprong's controller just disconnect? He stood in front of the net doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but I would say he's kind of borderline. And I'd also put Kane kind of borderline. He had 16 points in 19 games after a hip surgery that we had no idea how it was going to go. And yet, yes, I get it. He's currently hurt, but thankfully it's unrelated to the hip. And what's key is that odds are good that he could be back either right before the break, maybe a game or two before the All-Star break, so within the next week-ish, or most likely scenario is he is back after the All-Star break. And if we've got him healthy coming back into things, you're in a really great spot.
Yeah, the thing is that we've been able to win without him. And we were winning before without him, and we're winning now without him. But he's also been still around the guys during this entire time. Like they asked Daniel Sprong, Kane told him, go shoot low blocker on Vasi and you'll
giving pointers on goalies. That's huge.
Yeah, so he's still providing that influence to the guys in the locker room. And I think that I could be also convinced for those two. So like we had talked about Sprong. I put out some tweets about Sprong yesterday that he's doing what he's doing, like you said, with that limited amount of ice time, under 13 minutes a night to get 30 points. I had gone as far as to say I think Daniel Sprong is probably the best bottom 6 player in the NHL right now. I mean, just with his caliber of shot, he could be a top 6 guy. And you've got the luxury, I think, that if a top 6 guy goes down, you can slot Daniel Sprong up and you're not losing anything. If anything, you're probably going to gain more offense because you're giving him more minutes.
You know what's crazy? So, he's averaging 46 seconds more than his career average time on ice. His career average to this point is 12:04, and he's still doing this.
Yeah, I think I would say that is also crazy. I would also tell you that Daniel Sprong's shooting percentage right now is only at a 10.8. So he's got that amount of offense and he's shooting at a 10% clip. I think Robbie Fabry was the other one when we moved him up to above average. I think Robbie Fabry's shooting at like a 30% shooting percentage.
I checked that earlier. He's at
30. Right now, when last season he finished at like a 20% shooting percentage, which is absolutely insane to me. And Patrick Kane is doing Patrick Kane things, which is why I had him in the above average, because coming back with like the circumstances, coming back from the hip surgery and everything. But you could tell me to move him to the borderline elite, and I would do that because, again, the circumstances. Guys don't just come back and perform the way he's performed after having a major surgery like that.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He really has. I mean, the only downside is he's injured. Obviously, glad it's not the hip. Glad he's going to come back here pretty soon. And I mean, just what he's done to the power play and how dangerous the power play has looked when he's out there. That first unit, man. I mean, with Kane and DeBrincat, Kane's looking for DeBrincat, but he's always looking. He's got his head on a swivel, always looking for somebody. He's not afraid to shoot either. And again, like I said, everyone says that Patrick Kane is this great goal scorer, but I'll tell you what, his playmaking ability is second to none. And if you look back at the Chicago days with Panarin and obviously more recently with DeBrincat, I mean, he's a great player. He really is. And it's good to see that he's coming back into his own. Hopefully, he can stay healthy as the season goes on. But yeah, I agree 100% where he is right now.
Great. So we're going to round out the episode tonight with our what I consider our elite or borderline elite production so far, which is going to be Dylan Larkin and Alex Lyon. Dylan Larkin is at 41 points. He has 41 points in 40 games played. Dylan Larkin is over a point per game player. Currently, he's captain of the team. He's been doing captain things. He's getting targeted on like a nightly basis with absolutely zero repercussion. And he's still going out there and making plays and scoring goals and doing like what a top line center should do. If you try to tell me right now that Dylan Larkin is not a top line center, I'm mute. Absolutely. Because he's proven it time and time again. And this season especially, he has shown that he can be an elite player. And that's what he's doing. Alex Lyon, goddamn. I don't know what else to say except for like, there's your goalie, man. Like, he's the dude. I had said you need a goalie that can go in and make timely saves when the defense messes up. And Husso was not able to do that. And Reimer was not able to do that.
100%, Greg, and I'm sure Ryan will say the same thing, but I hate to say I told you so, but I said that Alex Lyon was going to be a good goaltender for
we
this
had talked
team.
about it.
We all did.
We had said before the season, we had said, let's not count Lyon out. Like, people were saying it was a foregone conclusion that it was going to be Reimer and Husso and that Lyon was going to be sent to Grand Rapids. And we said, I don't think so, because Lyon was the reason that Florida got to the playoffs. So you got to at least give this dude a chance.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I remember vividly talking about this before the season started. And I think me and Ryan even had this conversation when I came for the home opener. I said, Lyon staying on this roster and is going to contribute at some point. And the reason I said that was because of what he did with Florida last year. He was really good with Florida down the stretch. Obviously didn't play a whole lot in the playoffs, but they had Sergei Bobrovsky who played really good for them. So that was one of the reasons. And the other thing I'll say about Alex Lyon is give Steve Yzerman a lot of credit for not exposing him to waivers and keeping 3 goaltenders on this roster, because he could have easily put him on waivers and Tampa Bay could have taken him before the season started, or another team could have taken him before the season started. And we wouldn't be talking about Alex Lyon. We'd be talking about how our goaltending situation is James Reimer and somebody from GR or somebody from waivers. And that's probably where we'd be right now. And be thankful that Steve Yzerman was smart and said, you know what? No, we're going with 3 goalies and it'll figure itself out. And it did. Husso got hurt.
No, agreed. I mean, we waited, I think, way too long. And maybe that was probably a good thing that it took Lyon so long to finally get some game action. The Sweden trip was maybe a blessing in disguise with the injuries that took, or I shouldn't say the injury, the birth of Husso's child. And it got him finally in there. And now we're seeing the patience has paid off, if you will. And it's not the greatest scenario where you're dealing with injury and to make this the reality. But Reimer has been subpar since really Sweden. Now that could be, I mean, I argue that his last game out, he actually had a very good performance. And I think that was the 4-2 win over Toronto, correct? We're seeing the fruits of the labor with the team and how things have changed since the new year. And I think that right now, the way that they're playing defensively, we're seeing a comfort level from the goaltending that we haven't really seen since the start of the season, where they're not scrambling. They look comfortable with what's in front of them. And that's leading to, we're seeing the big saves. We're seeing what we were expecting from these guys before the season started, where Reimer's hopefully, yes, it's in a much more limited role, but he can be relied upon to be put out there in a big game situation to go beat a team like Toronto, because you're going to need that. And now when Husso comes back, we're hopefully going to see the exact same thing, because we're getting that night in and night out from Lyon. We saw that he did that last year. It's now a continuation into this season. Now, yes, he struggled going into the playoffs, and Bobrovsky did Bobrovsky things and took them to the Stanley Cup Finals. But Lyon knows what it takes to get there. Husso knows what it takes to get there. Reimer knows what it takes to get to that point, and that is into the playoffs. You've got a 3-headed monster that, barring anything crazy going on, you could still see one of them waived. But the likelihood is they ride this out because of the injury bug that could pop up. And we're still talking playoffs in a couple months from now. That's best case scenario. So we'll see. But he has been outside the almost obvious. Like, this is deja vu from last season. Larkin's up there as your midway point MVP, along with the goalie. Now we just hope that goalie doesn't regress, and I don't think it will with the way things are going.
No, now we hope going forward, within the next month or so, we move Seider and Wallman up to there, and we move some of our defensemen up a category, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take consistency and improvement in the defense in order to keep pushing ourselves and keeping ourselves in this playoff spot. Because right now we're in a playoff spot. We need to pull away from teams like Washington. We need to pull away from teams like Carolina. We need to pull away from teams like the Flyers, and just make sure you separate yourselves, not just from the people in your own division, but from the rest of the people in the conference, because at the end of the day, you're most likely fighting for a wild card spot. So don't only look at the Atlantic. You also have to look at the Metro and make sure that you are moving away from those other teams and just keeping that distance, because the more you win and the more they lose, the better a chance you have to make it into the playoffs. Now, if Tampa keeps doing Tampa things, they went on a 5-game streak and we broke it. If they go into another slump, that's good for us. Toronto has been bad most nights, which is fantastic. They're bad at a very good time for us, and their schedule is also not going to get any easier. So we need to steal some of these games. We talked about it last week, that after the All-Star break, we have a really tough schedule. We need to do a lot of winning up until that point, and then go post All-Star break beating some teams we don't have business beating. But that's going to be our grading for tonight, guys. I want to get your final thoughts before we sign off. And tonight we're going to start with Tyler.
Yeah, final thoughts are, I mean, they're playing good. And as you alluded to, there's a tough schedule coming up here with Dallas and Philadelphia, Vegas, Ottawa less so, but there's a rivalry between Detroit and Ottawa, so can't take those games for granted. And they did kick our ass in Sweden, so can't take those games for granted. Obviously, you got the West Coast trip coming up after that. And then obviously Seattle too, and Colorado. So it doesn't get any easier. It really doesn't get any easier. And it's a good thing that they're playing as good as they are. So hopefully they can keep that up. But yeah, those are my final thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91. Go Lions.
Sorry, dealing with potential daycare being closed tomorrow. Final
Yeah,
thoughts.
we just got all the school, like my daughter, we just got the school closing email.
Yeah, the oldest is already closed as well. And so is Novi. So apparently this quote unquote snowstorm / ice storm coming. So final thoughts. I mean, the Wings, I think, are in the best possible position they can be in right now. You look at where they were at this point last year, and the downward spiral was already kind of starting to begin. Right now, we're seeing the exact opposite take place. And as a fan, you really can't be much happier. I know that every game turns into a bit of a roller coaster, but that's just hockey. That's sports in general, and we're going to react one way to one game and one way to another. It's just the way that this freaking monster is, but that's what makes it fun. And right now, this team, absolutely, majority of the nights is fun. And the way that they're competing, the way that they're coming into games, and how they're reacting to things on the ice as a team, you can't ask for more. It's almost like the Lions have bled off into the rest of Detroit, other than the Pistons, who we won't talk about right now. But
again, Ryan, are the Pistons even a team anymore?
They're not even real. But you look
if there was relegation, they'd be playing in my local park.
Yeah, they would.
Cade Cunningham's good.
Well, okay.
That's one.
Yeah, one. But you look at the way, the Lions are the easy one to pick out right now, because you look at how the coaching staff is and how the team is reacting to it, and now the way that the fans have reacted to it. You're getting a lot of that with the Red Wings right now. Not as so much on the coaching staff, because hockey coaches, for whatever reason, are the most boring individuals unless your name is Tortorella. You look at the way the team is after these wins, the way they're dancing down the hall, the way they're reacting to the crowd. You listen to the crowd in general. We're not even talking playoffs right now. We're not even in the playoffs. Look at the way Ford Field has been the last 2 weeks. Now you take a fraction of that, and it's going to be LCA. I've already made the comment, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that my ears have been ringing after a game at LCA this season because of how loud it gets in there when this team is performing well. And that's a regular season game. You put this team in a playoff mode, and I think I've said this a million times at this point, it is going to be loud. It is going to be one of the best atmospheres in hockey because when you give Detroit fans a reason to get crazy, they don't disappoint. So all we can hope for is maintain some momentum and keep it going and stay healthy. Already ran 33.
Yeah, I agree with all that. You can follow me online at Bring the Meat. You follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. Give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network at HockeyPodNet for hosting our podcast and spreading it around everywhere. We also want to give a shout out to Questionable Tees. We got some sweet hoodies from them. The Lions Villains hoodies. They are so comfortable. It's amazing quality stuff. Go check out their stuff. We're going to get some of our merch printed by them and see how that looks as well. But so far, so good. You should go check out them on Twitter. Just go look at Questionable Tees, TEEZ. You can search them, find their stuff. They've got Red Wings stuff. They've got a Darren McCarty Game Over shirt, which is really cool. But they do have a ton of merch on there, so go check them out. Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get Detroit jerseys from and worked on. Go check out our YouTube channel at Grindline Pod. Subscribe to us and turn on those notifications. You'll get notified every time something goes live. Redbubble.com is where you can find our merch, unless we start printing our merch through someone else. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, right now it's redbubble.com. You can find our merch there. And you can join our Discord. If you check our link tree in our Twitter bio, there is a link to our Discord where you can go join our fun conversation and our Puck Pals competition. And we have a really good time over there on Discord. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.